Hey, um, I just got up a few hours ago and I combed my hair before I started this. That's the most I could do. I'm still wearing this dirty shirt. But, um, I was running through posts on social media a few months ago and I wanted to talk about this. I saw posts relating to a country that's, not doing well. I don't know what country it was at that time because, people post when it's in the news and then they suddenly stop and then it shifts to another place and it shifts to another news story. And it's sort of like focused for a while and everybody's focused on this one thing until they change their mind and then they switch to another. But the post was by somebody, some famous influencer, and they were posting that America should just drop a bomb on a country. And I'm not criticizing that influencer. They were just talking. They don't know what they're talking about. But I regularly watch this podcast by a guy named Yaron Brook, and he regularly has spoken about what's been going on in Afghanistan. Now, I'm not too knowledgeable on the subject, so I'm not going to talk about that specifically. But what intrigues me is this idea of America coming in and being basically a superhero for the entire world. And I'm not the only one who brought this to conversation, but a lot of objectivists, meaning, at least famous ones, the ones in the public figures, they are generally against the U.S. or a free country interfering with what the drama that goes on in another place. But in my mind, because they basically say that it's not in our self-interest, and if you know anything about objectivism, I'm not going to get into that, but if you know anything about objectivism, that's a big factor, if you will. That's the factor. But it's not in our interest to get involved in world affairs, if you will. But in my mind, it would, even though America's involvement in countries hasn't exactly been done well, I think that where you see an injustice, objectively, what is an injustice, you should go in and do something about it. If you were I mean, it would be odd if a person could see something like somebody messing around with minors or just something that doesn't really, that one person would consider an injustice and not try to do something about it if they could inside of America. So I find it odd when they say whatever goes on in another country, don't worry about it. Now I know, sure, this is against some sort of international laws or war laws or something, but in my mind, I don't see why it's not in our interests to basically enforce what we think is objective, right respecting laws on the entire world. And we shouldn't be in league with anyone that doesn't agree with values that the country subscribes to. Now, I know a country as a whole can't subscribe to values, but if a country is one that protects property rights within their country and articulates what is property and other rights, and in another country those rights are being not respected, infringed on, then I don't see why it's not in our interests to basically take the thing over. Now, this is what I'm saying. I don't know if it's against war laws or something, but they're probably not that reasonable, and they shouldn't exist anyway. But I basically am of the understanding that if a country is not a rights-respecting country, it's not a legitimate country, and you can basically do whatever with it. My alarm went off and it cut the recording. But yeah, in my mind, the most powerful country will be the one that is the most rights respecting one. So the one that has the most capitalism. So it's not as though we should be afraid of losing or anything like that. And as for whether or not a soldier should feel like he's fighting for a good cause when if a country were to run in and basically overtake some place like Afghanistan. Um, I don't think that that matters because they signed up, well, in a free country, they would have signed up for it voluntarily. So no involuntarily formed military. But yeah, I was just thinking about that after I saw the posts and watched the Yarn Brook podcast. And I'm not the reason I don't call myself an objectivist is because I haven't read any of the books. I'm working on it, but I haven't read any of the books, but I tend to agree with them. But this is something that I disagree with them on. I don't see why it's not in our interest to enact or fight for justice wherever we are, wherever there is injustice. So I think it's in my opinion, my uneducated opinion. Well, not uneducated, but I don't know that much about Afghanistan. But that maybe all these random places that we shouldn't have gone, apparently, maybe we should have gone, but done it differently. Maybe it's possible that we should have basically made it America. Not in the sense that it exists today, but in the sense that of what it could be. But as long as we believe that our position is correct, we should have made it our position, if you know what I mean. And wiped out anybody who basically disagreed with what would use force on another person. That's what I'm saying, basically what I'm saying. But it's in most objectivists. Well, I don't know most, but in the ones that are in the public sphere, the ones on YouTube and writing books, They say we shouldn't have been there. It's none of our business. And they say that Ayn Rand would have said the same thing. But perhaps that's the wrong approach. I don't know. Just speculating. I don't get it. I don't get why it's not in our interest to basically expand and fucking free the world, if you will. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that topic. It was just bugging me, man. I watch these things and I just think to myself, but what if we did it different? Is it not a value? Where is this, it's not our jurisdiction type deal come from? I don't get it. I don't get it. Because if we're right, then any place that doesn't fit into what we think is right doesn't get its own jurisdiction. So even with what was going on in Venezuela or anywhere, I don't see why overtaking the place wouldn't be right.